In Module 3, Lesson 7, we're going to order integers and other rational numbers on the number line. So we're going to start off by graphing 7 and its opposite on the number line, and then graph 5 and its opposite also on the number line. So 7, which is 7 units to the right of 0, and negative 7, which is 7 units to the left of 0. Then 5, which is 5 units to the right of 0, and negative 5, which is 5 units to the left of 0, are both of our numbers and their opposites. Question B, where does 7 lie in relation to 5 on the number line? So we know that 7 is to the right of 5. Where does the opposite of 7 lie on the number line? In relation to the opposite of 5. The opposite of 7, which is negative 7, is to the left of the opposite of 5, which is negative 5. So we'll say negative 7 is to the left of negative 5. And then we're going to, especially in class, play a little game. If I'm thinking of two numbers, and the first number lies to the right of the second number on a number line, very like what we just did, what can you say about the location of their opposites? So if I have my two numbers and the first number lies to the right of the second number, then that would mean that the opposite of our first number would lie to the left. The opposite of our first number would lie to the left of the opposite of our second number. In example 1, they tell us that the record low temperature for a town in Maine for January and February are negative 20 and negative 19 degrees Fahrenheit, respectively. The word respectively means in that order. So the low in January was negative 20, the low in February was negative 19. They ask us to order the numbers from least to greatest. So if I think about a number line, and I remember that if I have 0 in the middle of a number line, and then I order my numbers, I would get to negative 19 first and then negative 20. But let's illustrate it just to be sure. So when I draw my number line, and I didn't consider any positive numbers here because we're only looking at negative numbers, I started at 0 and then I counted toward the left by ones. But I only wrote them every 2 just because they're very close together. But you notice that we have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on, all the way up to negative 19 and negative 20. When I write the numbers in order from least to greatest, I should be writing the numbers furthest to the left and working my way toward the right, because the further left you go on the number line, the less the value of the number. So in this case, negative 20 is furthest to the left, followed by negative 19. In exercises 2 through 4, they ask us to order the rational numbers from least to greatest, and they tell us to first read the problem, then draw a number line diagram, and then finally write and explain the answer. Exercise 2, John's time for running the mile in gym class is 9 2/10 minutes. Jackie's time is 9 18/100 minutes. Who ran the mile in less time? We're going to put a number line here, and how we number the number line is really going to be crucial to our comparison. So I've started my number line, and I have a starting point, and I think we'll number that 9, since nothing is less than 9 in our times. So this is going to be 9. From this point on, we need to determine what each of the divisions on our number line are going to be. So we have 2/10, but 1800ths. If we want to be precise, we're going to have to number them by hundredths because that is a smaller division. And what we could do is write John's time in hundredths by adding a 0 after the 2. Because with decimals, you can add zeros at the end of them and it doesn't change the value. So now what we have is 9 and 20 hundredths and 9 and 18 hundredths. So we'll make the divisions on our number line by hundredths. I've divided our number line into 100ths, and when we number it, this would be 9 and 200ths, 9 and 400ths, and I'm numbering every other one so that we have the space to see the numbers. Then we can look at the number line, and what we are trying to graph are 9 and 18 hundredths, which is right here, and 9 and 20 hundredths, which is right here. The 9 and 20 hundredths is John's time. So we'll make a little note there, John. And Jackie's time is 9 and 18 hundredths. Who ran the mile in less time? Well, looking at the number line, Jackie's time is further to the left. So Jackie ran it in less time. Let's look at question 3. Mrs. Rodriguez is a teacher at Westbury Middle School. She gives bonus points on tests for outstanding written answers and deducts points for answers that are not written correctly. She uses rational numbers to represent the points. So she wrote the following on the students' papers. Student A, -2 points. Student B, -2 and 5/10 points. Did student A or student B perform worse on the test? Let's put a number line in, and we'll have to divide our number line by tenths because in student B we have 5/10. So when I number the number line in tenths, I can start at -2 since I don't have any positive numbers that I'm going to be graphing. But as we go toward the left, we'll be decreasing by 2/10 for each line. And again, I'm writing every other one just so that we can see more clearly because they are rather close together. This would be -3 because -2 and 8/10, and then -2 and 9/10, and -2 and 10/10. 10/10 is one whole. So we would go to negative 3. After we number the number line, then we need to put the points that are in the problem. We have student A, which is negative 2 points, and student B, which is negative 2.5. 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and negative 2.5 is right here. Student A is our negative 2 points, and student B is the negative 2.5 points. And our question is, did student A or student B perform worse on the test? Well, worse would mean that you have a lower score, so student B performed worse on the test. In question 4, it says a carp is swimming approximately 8 1/4 feet beneath the water's surface, and a sunfish is swimming approximately 3 1/2 feet beneath the water's surface. Which fish is swimming further beneath the water's surface? So let's draw a vertical number line for this one, since we are talking about sea level or the level of a water surface, and water, the depth of water, is vertical. So I drew a vertical number line, and I numbered some important spots. I numbered 0, and then negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8. Now, based on the numbering of the number line, I should be able to find an approximate location for 8 1/4 feet beneath the water surface. That should be somewhere around here. And 3 1/2 feet below the surface, which should be somewhere between negative 3 and negative 4. And then our question was, which fish is swimming further beneath the water surface? With the vertical number line, we can clearly see that the carp, who is swimming 8 1/4 feet below, is much further beneath the water surface. Now in example 2, we'll be comparing a little bit differently. Henry, Janan, and Clark are playing a card game, and the object of the game is to finish with the most points. The scores at the end of the game: Henry has negative 7, Janan has 0, and Clark has negative 5. Who won the game? Who came in last place? And they ask us to use a number line model and explain how we arrived at our answer. So I've created the number line, and on the number line we have 0, and then we're counting by ones going in the negative direction. So what we need to do then is to graph those 3 scores. This was Janan, Henry was negative 7, and Clark was negative 5. And we'll need to make sure that we label those. Henry, we'll just put an H there for Henry. Clark was negative 5, that's a C for Clark, and Janan was 0, put a J. Now, who won the game? Well, that would be the score that is the highest, because the object of the game was to finish with the most points. So Janan won. Janan won. Henry came in last place because his is furthest to the left. And your answer should include an explanation written, although mine was verbal. Finally, in exercises 5 and 6, they ask us to order the rational numbers from least to greatest by first reading the problem, then drawing a number line diagram, and finally explaining your answer. I'm going to leave you to be drawing your own number lines for these two. Refer to the earlier examples if you need to. Question 5. Henry, Janet, and Clark are playing another round of the card game. Their scores this time are Clark -1, Janet -2, and Henry -4. Who won? Who came in last place? If we put them on the number line, we'll find that Henry with a -4 is furthest to the left, and then Janet at -2 and Clark at -1. So that would mean that Clark won. And again, Henry came in last place. And finally, question 6. They ask us to represent each of the following elevations using a rational number and then order them from least to greatest. Putting these on the number line could be quite difficult because they are very far apart. Cayuga Lake, 122 meters above sea level. Mount Marcy, 1,629 meters above sea level. And the New York Stock Exchange Vault is 15 and 24/100 meters below sea level. First of all, if we're going to order the numbers from least to greatest, we hopefully know that the number below sea level is much lower, or has much less value than the other two. And the New York Stock Exchange number is a negative number because it's below sea level, -15 and 24/100. Moving from left to right on a number line, or from bottom to top on a vertical number line, we would encounter the 122 meters above sea level next. And then finally, near the top, we would encounter the 1,629 meters above sea level. So numbers on a horizontal number line decrease in value as you move to the left, increase in value as you move to the right, and numbers on a vertical number line decrease as you move down and increase as you move up.